All right, oh, the deck is doing very well. Um, I'm going to bring it back up. So I have not made any changes today, and I've managed to go 503 times today, I believe, taking me from 2 wins to five, which puts me at second in the count. The guy at first is Dots with like 12 wins, but that dude is nuts. He had like something like 8 wins in the first day or something in the first couple of hours. Like he was just going crazy with it. So, other than that guy, I'm tied for second with a guy named Oceano. We both have five. There's two people at four, two people at three, and then everyone else is in the 201 range, uh, which is where I started today. So the deck has not changed a card today since it fell into the current configuration. I've been so happy with it. I haven't touched it, and that's actually pretty awesome. Because I really didn't think I was going to get to this point. Now, things will change if the format changes. Of course, adjustments will have to be made. It'd be really cool, I think, to be able to main deck Vandal Blast again or and disenchant. But this definitely is not currently the format for those cards. Although disenchant would be nice, but not that much. Probably I'd want to play Anguish Unmaking over disenchant, if anything. So here's the list. I'll scroll down for the lands. For those of you who haven't seen it already, after Wasteland comes Watery Grave, Windswept Heath, and Wooded Foothills. Unfortunately, Magic Online just won't let me extend all the way to the top, so I can't actually reveal the rest of the deck. But and what's interesting was I actually had. So I played. I keep doing that. Where's the? There we go. Anyway, between the last round set of games and this set, I played mono red probably 5 times straight. So apparently the folks who are up around this time are into mono red. I asked one guy, I said, "Was there like an article on mono red, or is like a streamer using it? What happened?" He said, he said no. He said it's only like 20 tickets to put the whole deck together, and I was like, "Well, yeah, that's a good reason," and you can win with it. So fortunately, though, first opponent, a Loro, not mono red, and I have a hand that is just roaring for control. But I lead off with the Weathered Wayfarer and then follow up with tapping a land, picking up a land, casting Mox Diamond, throwing away the land I drew, which is worse than Tundra, playing Grim, and figuring I will use Weathered Wayfarer in just a moment. And that moment does not come, so perhaps I was a bit greedy there. Still, I get Breya out before my opponent's got his third land in play. That's pretty good. Opponent vindicates my pickup land, interestingly enough. So during my upkeep, I tutor and Ravages of War and return the favor to him. I enlightened, tutored. I'm not quite sure. I'm wondering if we're going to bug out, but most of the rest of this is right. There was a Merchant Scroll here that for Gush. I mean, let's just assume somehow I enlightened tutor for Ravages of War. That must have been mystical. I can't explain it. Anyway, or maybe I just already had the Ravages. I must have already had the Ravages, and then I went and got something else. So anyway, I get Merchant Scroll. I Merchant Scroll for Gush, which is really funny. You know, I'm playing Gush right after I had a Armageddon fire off. But I figured against Olaro, I just have to I have to be very aggressive at putting pressure on him because otherwise this game is just not going to end. Opponent runs out of Think Twice. I'm doing scroll rack business and trying to hit land drops at the same time because if my opponent kills my board on turn 4 mana, which is what I was expecting, I wanted to have enough mana in play to do this. Two birds at his face, bird and a monolith. I had some thought to untapping the monolith rather than throwing at him, but then I would have missed out on a total of 6 damage, and that felt like an extremely high amount. Yeah, we are going to bug out. It felt like an extremely high amount of mana to miss out on. So Breya is in play right now. And then I dink around with scroll rack. That's all true. Just my invisible Breya is in play. Just keep that in mind. Anyway, my opponent's at 12. I attack him for 6 with Breya and 2 flyers. He goes to 6, and then I just sack using Breya's ability twice, and my opponent's dead, despite his a Laurel life gain. Hey, Tom. All right, so maybe I'm just in the. Maybe I need to be in the play lobby. Is that what I need? Um. Anyway, I think you're gonna really like. I don't know if it was this next game here or what, but there's. I'm hoping if I'm not remembering incorrectly, I believe there was a Baral game that played out pretty well. Maybe not though. Okay, mono red. So the deck's been pushed really hard in the direction of being good against mono blue. So how does it do against mono red? Well, with the Dark Confidant Mox Diamond draw, you do okay. I found Stubborn Denial was real nice right there. Opponent goes for a collective, and I just deny it for 1. I probably should have maybe negated or linked. I don't know. I had a chance to use Denial and I took it, but I should have maybe thought about down the road the fact that Denial would be very strong on the turn that I play Breya if I get enough mana into play. So I go get Winter Orb. Winter Orb is the card against mono red, as insane as that sounds, but you need them to not be able to just dump. You need them to be able to constrained on their mana so they can't dump burn. So it's very hard for them to kill Breya unless they can throw multiple burn at it. It's also hard for them to kill you if they have to throw burn and then stop and wait. Because during the pauses, see right here, it would have been real nice to have Stubborn Denial. So during the pauses, especially when he plays Sulfuric Vortex and then Fire Blasts Breya, so I'm in bad shape right here. But see, with Winter Orb, it's the pauses that allow you to rebuild your mana. Normally, of course, not dying to Sulfuric Vortex, and then redeploy Breya while they're just trying to get something going. So, all right, I am on a scary clock with Vortex, but I drew that Merchant Scroll is real nice. So if I can just have him not pressure my mana, oh gosh, I'm definitely gonna have to spend some mana on that. I use Negate because Mana Leak is just as good of a counter as any with him so low on mana, and I'd rather be able to counter a creature. Play Spell Shock, again pressuring my mana. Can I just hit a land drop so I can play this Cryptic? Apparently not. I did find a Mental Misstep though, which was real good timing for that Goblin Guide who was coming down to eat my face. So finally end step I can bounce the Cryptic, but unfortunately now the Orb is actually kind of painful because but I was able to draw an Expedition map and play it, which gives me 3 mana, which means I can 3 artifacts, which means I have Metalcraft for Stoic Rebuttal. Drawing for the turn, we are building up to Breya, and you see how my opponent got 7 cards in hand. I would be so dead if it weren't for Winter Orb right now, like way dead. But with Orb in play, okay, let's go for it. Tapping out for Breya, I'm at 6, but he's already Fire Blasted, and he's Price of Progress. He's already popped. So without a Fire Blast or a pop, I don't know how he's going to kill me. He plays Ash Zealot, which has haste, and at the end of it, and before he can hit me with it, I sack the map and the Winter Orb, and then mash him for 6, and he did a lot of damage to himself with that Vortex. Not enough to survive Breya's Fireball ability at the end, and Mono Red goes down. So that was real nice. I don't really like the Mono Red playing against the Mono Red very much. It's the games are always super tight. Just kind of glad to get that out of the way. Here, yes, my opponent is playing Baral, and I think this is the one that I wanted you to see. I hope it is. So I do win the dice roll. I have to mulligan, and so I lead off with Steam Vents. And I'm real happy when I see my opponent tap out for Preordain, because it means, barring like something crazy, this Talisman's going to stick. And that's really important against blue, because that means now if he plays Brawl, I play Breya, potentially. Of course, I think I have a better play than Breya, so how about Jason a bounce? And my opponent Serum Visions, which I'm really happy because he could have played Baral and left the blue up, but he didn't. So now I'm just going to start Jacing. All right, so let's do this. Night's Whispering, producing more mana. Let's get cards and mana. And then he bounces, and I wished I had played the Azoria Signet there as well, but I was holding this fetch land for the Tithe Trick. Kind of ugly. But I rip a nice top deck, so I go Vindicate on Baral. He's got Negate. Discarding Emrakul, which is very cool for him. And I decide I need to get Breya down more than I need to get Jace down right here. And he just manifests. Alright, so let's try Shackles. Can we get Shackles? No. Alright, well how about Fact or Fiction in response to Dissolve? He cycles Lonely Sandbar in response and hits a Temporal Mastery, which I don't know if he set that up or... No, he couldn't have. Well, anyway, nasty stuff for me. So he gives me piles like this, and I choose Demonic Tutor Palace Jailer over Wasteland Expedition Map and Land Tax. My opponent polymorphs into Emrakul and has another turn. He think twices, annihilates, hits me for 15, leaving me with exactly 4 mana, but only 1 card in my opponent's hand. I draw, play a land, untapped, paying the life just in case he has a Force Spike, and I decide Palace Jailer is better than Jace because he won't be able to Spell Pierce it, and no answer for you. I am now the Monarch, and Emrakul is exiled. Wait, you can't exile Emrakul? Yes, you can. Yes, indeedy. I will now be drawing 2 cards per turn for the rest of this game. Alright, so I Demonic Tutor. And my opponent's had time to, draw more counterspells, but maybe not. So I go ahead and go get Forbid. I figure I'm drawing 2 cards per turn. Forbid's probably a pretty solid card to have in my hand right now. Tithe at the end of my opponent's turn gets a Sage's Dousing just because my opponent wants to cycle it since it draws a card. So I go ahead and tap out at the end of my opponent's end step to keep my Tithe going. I don't want him to draw an extra card off Baral. Alright, plus, Tithe is good with Forbid. So we're going to go for Jace. It sticks, and I go ahead and plus it up. I don't care about his Brawl anymore. I'm just going to try to win via plussing. I got to watch out because I've taken so much damage, and then I've had to use Ancient Tomb a few times. So look at that. I Jace into triple counterspell. So gross. I actually have so many cards. I'm going to have to Vampiric Tutor during my end step to avoid discarding. Alright, so my opponent's taking his turn. He's trying to figure out what to do. Palace Jailer just owning his life over there. So I draw Armageddon. I go ahead and just float a ton of mana. I figured out that I can actually play this and counterspell twice. So Armageddon comes to the table. I bounced his Brawl previous to making this play, though, because I didn't want him to have reduced cost counter war with me. So with the mana floating, he had nothing to say about it whatsoever. I'm going to play Talisman, Ponder, find a land. I'm about to start attacking, and I've got a counterspell up. I mean, I can take one more hit from that sack land, which I was going to do, actually. I was going to go ahead and sack it before my end step, before the Monarch trigger, to get a brand new card. And then from there, I was going to go get Basic Island. The only problem is, I think I was going to Basic Island. Anyway, the problem is I can't use the Talisman, but on the other hand, for colored, but I could still cast Evasive Action if I needed to, and if my opponent plays an island, which is the only way I could see myself casting Evasive Action other than maybe a Mox, Fellwar will turn on, and then I don't have to worry about taking damage. I can just chill out at 1, and eventually, maybe someday, get Breya on the table and get my life to recover. But at any rate, my opponent doesn't stick around for that. I guess he just doesn't want to get beat by me drawing 5 cards per turn, so I do not blame him. Well, that night, destroyed 10 permanents with 1 card, so that's probably pretty bad for his well-being. I mean, I just thought that was fantastic because the Jailer tech is just so good, and it was so nice to have it right there after getting Emrakul with a Time Walk. It's just savage, right? Alright, so I'm playing against Mono Red, and I've got Supreme Verdict. That's a keeper. Opponent leads off with Goblin Guide, and then I screw this up. I want Island on top, but I forgot that I'll be drawing a card, so I just choose to shuffle instead. And I luck into a land anyway. That's awesome. Alright, so we're going to get this down. Notice my opponent's text is in purple. He's Watsi Lee. He's actually an employee. So Here we go. And I get right on time because it was in my opening hand. I actually fetch Plateau here to avoid taking an extra point of damage. And I get to Supreme Verdict, which is huge. All right, so he's got Chandra's flying annoyance, but that's okay. We've got Breya with 2 flying annoyances and an expedition map for food. He flies in, and yep, I will trade. If he wants to throw damage at my face to get that thing back, I am cool with that. Rather have it go to face than go to Breya. Okay, let's get some mana down. Let's get as many artifacts down as we can because nobody runs Vandal Blast anymore, and those artifacts are all just Breya fuel. Alright, well, Magus of the Moon, generally pretty good against this deck. Not from this position, though. So I go for Dak Faden. And the other thing about the artifacts that I'm noshing on, is I'm holding that Yawgmoth's Will. So right here I was going to Dak and then start digging for, the counters to make the game locked tight. But he's having none of it. He's seen enough, and he's giving up. 14 is a pretty high life total, but actually I'm at 24, which is a bit higher than I think he was willing to try to push through. Not with a Dak filtering my cards, so anyway, suffice to say, the deck does pretty well against mono red, but you should definitely play as many of those, play some mono red games, because it's not easy until you get the rhythm of it. So I had to mulligan here, and my opponent's playing Anafenza, the foremost non-blue commander, but probably one of the top, I assume one of the top commanders in those colors that isn't blue, I would think. It's a pretty doggone good card. Alright, so my opponent's got a Title as Scholar, and my hand is very I'm not going to Daze to try to protect that and slow myself way down, though. If he wants to take... I was hoping, actually, that what would happen is he would take Jace, because I want to play a land and then Daze his commander. Hardcast. So we're going to go for that plan. But he misses a land drop. And right there... Well, he plays Mesmeric Fiend, so he may be sandbagging the land here. I've seen people pull that shenanigan. But I still don't want the Fiend to hit. So I'm going to go ahead and cast the Daze. Looks like he's not sandbagging. Looks like he's in trouble. But just in case he finds a land here, I'm not going to cast Crucible. I really just want to... I would love to counter his commander even once. But imagine if he goes, land Crucible here. Then I feel real dumb tapping out. So I'm just not going to do it. Just take some more damage. And be patient. So I'm kind of tempted to slam Breya here. And I think, well, he missed a land drop twice. Let's just do it. He's probably aching to get his commander out. And if he gets his commander out from this position, I don't care. And then he paths Breya, which is awesome, because that just means I can play it next turn. And then for some crazy reason, he swings in like this. And he just uses removal to kill a bird. I am so cool with that. You can absolutely spend all your removal on my birds. So anyway, I use a bounce land to pick up an island and then brainstorm it back into the deck and then merchant scroll it away. Basic island. And because I have a ton of cards and I've got Crucible of Worlds and another pickup land to go, I go get Forbidden. I figured I had it locked down, and then look at the land he draws. Can't be countered. Sheesh. Alright, well, fortunately, I drew Ancient Tomb, which is a pretty good land itself, and we're going to take that thing right off the board before anything can go wrong. My opponent vindicates Breya, hits me for more damage, which is fine by me. I was a little nervous that he might have something more severe to do. We might be bugging. No. Okay, good. Yeah, so that's what happened. I had Mystical Teachings for Swords to Plowshares. Got my Jace back and played Jace. Set myself up with the Supreme Verdict hiding on top of my deck since he has a lot of discard. Plays Mother of Rooms, Praetor's Grasp. Now I feel bad about hiding the Supreme Verdict. I hid it so far in the deck I can't get to it now. So I'm taking even more damage from Ancient Tomb, picking it up, using Jason. There it is, Supreme Verdict again. Very strange, actually, that should happen. So I'm going to throw away the Ancient Tomb. I definitely want to keep using it. Well, I mean, I will, but I don't. You know, it's a low priority. So he goes for Desecration, Demonize, Mana Leak that thing, and he scoops it up. I guess he could send Mother of Runes. He could send Mom at J Star, but then we just drop Breya and play and Shooter. So I don't think he wants to do that. He doesn't either. So he just gives up. But he was. I mean, to be fair, my opponent was severely mana screwed. But even with the mana screw, I mean, he only has 3 cards in hand. So even if all 3 of those, if 2 of those cards were lands and one was a bomb, well, I have one counter for that. So he wasn't really doing too well this game. There's also teachings in the graveyard that I could flash back about to charge this jeweled amulet up, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 mana available to me next turn. And Breya costs, what does it cost? 8? So that's 8 plus 2 to use it, plus 3 for a counterspell, or 8 plus 2 counterspells. So I was in phenomenal shape here, and I agree with my opponent. It was game over. All right, so that's it. Again, the list. Hope you enjoyed those games. It's not too often. Palace Jailer, man, I love this tech. I am so like, ooh, that card just does it for me. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed watching Emrakul with a time walk get defeated by a lowly. It makes you wonder, who's the bold human soldier who decided that he was going to lock Emrakul in jail anyway? I don't know, but apparently he is pretty loyal to his king, which is you if you put him in your deck. And with that, I think that's everything. I hope you enjoyed watching that, and I look forward to the next time we talk. Thanks for watching. See you next time.